Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I will have sound because I just released a 20-minute video of this with no sound. I cried a little inside, but I think this is fixed. So without further ado, here is my Pad Cross review and analysis. So Pad Cross, Pad X, Ace, whatever you want to call it, is coming to North America to celebrate the Puzzle & Dragons anime that is found somewhere on the interweb. So I actually haven't seen it myself, so anyone who has watched it, please let me know if it's good, because I'm actually not too big of an anime person, so I don't know if I want to watch this, so let me know if it is entertaining, is it worth my time, are there enough Puzzle & Dragons references to keep it interesting, so on and so forth. So, the Pad Cross entire event basically allows you to evolve various rare machine and farmable monsters to a new evolution. These are completely optional, and they generally add more power and utility to those cards, and that's why I want to write this article and take a look at what each and every one of them does. So, first off, there was a bit of delay for Pad Cross coming to North America, which seemed a little odd, but I think it's more so because of the coding and whatnot, so hopefully players were not too cross about it. So, without further ado, the rare machine cards that are receiving new evolutions can be used for skill inheritance. Just be careful of their evolution tree and you make sure you're in the correct form before you try and evolve. Just check, click the icons, it'll open up to Puzzle & Dragon X. Look there. So, first off is Typhon. And Typhon was pretty muscular abs that were chiseled like no other, beefcake, and gave a lot of husbando fan service to the players. Unfortunately, we are playing puzzles and waifus, and that means we get a pretty girl for the new evolution. Hooray! So, what changed? Well, there was a modest stat upgrade, and the active skill was changed to 2 turns of haste and a 13 instead of 10 turn cooldown. Now, that is kind of hard to say if it's worthwhile. 2 turns of haste is powerful, but 3 extra turns of cooldown is kind of hard to stomach. And this becomes even worse when I discuss that Typhon is now a good leader. So, the leader skill has been changed to now form 1.82 times health, 65.61 times attack, and 57.75% damage reduction team if you use dragons and balance types. Non-dragon balance types receive only 36 times attack and the same damage mitigation. So we now have a Heart Cross leader, and looking at the awakenings, they are fantastic. You have Bind Immunity, you have Devil Killer, you have the Row, you have TPA, you have the Recover Bind, and that goes nicely with the active skill. Unfortunately, the active skill is a gamble. There's a lot of RNG involved with these board changers because you will be randomly spawning fire, water, dark, heart orbs. So you don't know what amount you're going to get them in. And in an ideal world, you want to form at least a Row and a Heart Cross. So you have to pray you get at least 6 dark and 5 heart orbs. That may not always happen, and you may have to use someone like Akachi in conjunction to ensure you have enough orbs. Furthermore, because of the fact that you now have a 13 turn cooldown, they are less desirable as a base for skill inheritance. If we're going to use other Heart Cross leaders as comparison, Miru, who is farmable, has a 7 turn base cooldown. So you can inherit an active safely on there. However, you can still use Miru's regular active and guarantee a Heart Cross. Typhon does not. So that is a little painful. I guess on the bright side, you do get nice turns of haste on your leaders, but less value in co-op. But you can cycle your subs actives very quickly, because 2 turns is a lot. So another drawback of this leader skill, like it looks great on paper, that's more damage than Miru, a bit less damage reduction, but more health, if you can use Dragon Balance. However, it's the lack of time extends that are going to be problematic for Typhon. Dual leaders provide 1 additional second, Miru provides 4. You see where the problem lies right now? You don't have enough time to move orbs because a Row and a Heart Cross take a lot of manipulation, so player skill will come into play for Typhon, and that can be what limits players from achieving as great success aside from the active skill not being as safe. So you can use non-balanced dragon type cards, however you just have to be aware that they are going to be hitting less hard, so don't use them unless it is necessary. So in this case, cards like Yomi Dragon and Plum are actually very powerful, those Monster Point Dragons cards, because they give time extend, they also give a nice active because the hearts and dark orbs. So just something to keep in mind. And Typhon is probably the strongest leader, well not probably, is the strongest leader of all the evolutions, so I would probably just evolve my Typhon anyways. I actually didn't realize the active skill changed. I foolishly skilled up my Typhon before. Oh well, I get a pretty girl instead. These articles I actually post on my site. There'll be a link in the YouTube video, so you can go and read them. I try not to read from them. I try and provide different commentary that I may not necessarily type out. So next up is Spastic or Best Cat. Now this is an evolution from her green dark form, and you notice that there are no 2-prongs anymore. You gain a God Killer and more time extend. So you actually have a brand new active and a much better leader skill. So the active provides a mass attack for 3 turns, which is the same as before for Awoken Best Cat. And you have 50% defense break for 3 turns, all on a 6-turn cooldown. So comparing to Awoken Best Cat, which everyone probably has, you are gaining 1 turn more of cooldown for a 50% defense break for 3 turns. Now, 50% defense break, it's an awkward amount because you're really using defense break for, say, pre-draws. And pre-draws have 10 million defense, so now you go to 5. This is not quite enough. 5 million is a lot of defense. So you may not be, it's not enough defense break, so this is kind of lackluster, for lack of a better word. Like, you can use them on Tamadras, but Tamadras have 600,000. Like, that's easy to overcome. So it's just an awkward amount, and you gain extra cooldown, which means they're less valuable as a base for skill inheritance. However, as a leader, Ace Best Cat now has a much higher ceiling. You gain 2 times attack for 4+ combos, maximum 8 times at 10, so that equates to 64 times, much higher than before. However, you gain an additional 1.5 times attack for 3+ wood combos, so now you're 144 times damage. Pretty miraculous. You have huge damage potential with that God Killer and time extends. You don't go for the TPAs anymore. However, wood does have a lot of nice cards that can be used to great success. For instance, you have Vishnu, and Vishnu is a very powerful wood sub because you get the 2 wood orbs and the wood skyfall for 3 turns on a 6-turn cooldown. So yes, you may not benefit from his triple TPA as much. However, you have the Skyfall buff, which may help trigger your additional leader skill. Furthermore, you have cards like Verdandi, Sylvie, so on and so forth. So you, Kaede, you have lots of great subs to draw from for Ace Best Cat. And her leader skill is much better than Awoken Best Cat. Let's put it that way. So if you need a nice wood leader, Ace Best Cat is your go-to cat. Unfortunately, this 144 times is not easy to achieve. 10 combos is not reliable. So you're going to obviously be scaling, but you don't always hit the 10 combos. Furthermore, you are a glass cannon because you have no health or recovery multiplier. And that means you are vulnerable to lots of mechanics. And you may have issues with damage control. So this is going to be bad because there are other glass cannon leaders who are easier to activate and deal more damage. Because, for instance, Sarasvati, 3 water combos with a row and 2 others is an instant 100 times with a row. Much less effort to make, so you have a harder to activate leader skill for potentially less damage. And this is going to be problematic because you want to use glass cannons in dungeons where you need to blow things up quickly and reliably. Ace Best Cat is not reliable. So she's not going to be a top tier leader. She'll be fun, but it's going to be hard to use in dungeons with lots of mechanics. And that's going to be what's going to limit her usage. But if you have a best cat and you need a leader, this is a good option still. However, one last thing I want to point out is because of these nice awakenings and a relatively low active skill cooldown, you are able to use Ace Best Cat as a base for skill inheritance. You are able to inherit other actives on top of the 6-turn cooldown to gain that nice God Killer and time extends, so something else to consider. Anna series is the next card, and she is an evolution from Green Light series, and you still retain those Devil Dragon Killer awakenings. They have a nice 2-prong, and the active skill changed. So the active skill is now a full health heal and bind recovery, along with 1-turn haste for a 12-turn cooldown. So comparing to Green Light, Green Dark, you're gaining 1-turn haste for 2-turn cooldown. Probably worthwhile, I would say, because it's a relatively long active anyways, and you want to gain at least a bit more value for your active skill. Now, this full health heal and bind recovery probably had most value on health-sensitive teams, such as Machine, Zeus, and Hera, who have to be at full or 80% health to achieve full multiplier. So now you have a more powerful active who is a bit easier to skill up in a way. Like, it only requires a few wood peas, whereas Green Light, Green Dark required lots of those little golden birds. So, is an option, and Anna series is the most offensive of all the series evolutions as a sub. So you might even use her directly as a sub, so that is a nice option. However, a lot of people will be eyeing this new and flashy leader skill. So you gain 1.5 times attack for clearing each wood or light cross, max 3 crosses on a 6x5 board, and then you gain 4 times attack when wood and light attack at the same time. So that is quite significant. You can scale up to 182 times attack. However, the biggest drawback of this leader skill is the fact that your glass cannon, Anna series does not produce wood or light orbs, so you are reliant on your subs, and there's no time extend. Cross leaders need lots of time extend, so this is problematic. Your leaders don't provide any help to activating your leader skills, so it's not going to be that impactful. Furthermore, leaders like Kenshin are going to seem much more powerful because they get 1,000 times attack, whereas you have 182 times here. And 3 crosses is awkward, and you have low combo count. 2 crosses is not going to do that much damage, so this is a problematic leader, and I don't think she's going to be used much as a leader. Awoken Best Cat has at least a better kit for activating her leader skills, so I don't think she's going to be used much as a leader, possibly just a powerful inheritance or even a sub on mono wood teams. So I like the actual artwork for Green Dark series the most, so I don't know if I want to change mine. Finally, we come to Ace Horace. Now, Horace is everyone's favorite flaming chicken. However, he has fallen out of the deep fryer to KFC. I don't know where I'm going with this. Regardless, Horace has fallen out of favor over the past couple of years, mainly because his multiplier is too low, and especially because Super Chicken came out, which is Raw Dragon. It blew all of the other Rainbow leaders out of the metaphorical water because he had 144 times, Horace had like 45 times. There's no comparison, it's not fair. So Horace was not used, and then the fact that his active skill was relatively lackluster, he wasn't used much as a sub either, so Horace was basically just benched. Now, Ace Horace may change things up a bit because you gain an active skill upgrade change. You now produce a Light Kali style active board with enhancing fire orbs for 1 additional cooldown. So you have a Light Kali board. This is nice for inheritance or whatnot. However, it is an upgrade, but Light Kali boards are not as in demand as they used to be because top tier Rainbow leaders like Ranove, Raw Dragon, Sharius Roots all need heart orbs, and you don't produce heart orbs, so this is problematic. Not going to be used in my opinion. Awkward. Just awkward in general. So the leader skill potential is worse than Awoken Horace, so don't consider it. But if you need this type of board changer, it's at least an easy to evolve evolution tree. And if you use, say, Awoken Ra, Sakuya, Yumasachi, Yamasachi, this is a nice inheritance option. So something to keep in mind. At least it is an upgrade from the existing Horace. Otherwise, I don't think it's going to use that much. Now, all of those rare machine cards qualify as an assistant for skill inheritance, so you can put them on other cards. These farmable monsters do not, so just keep that in mind. They have to use the subs to gain their active. So the first and most exciting farmable evolution is Annabelle Tree. Now, Annabelle Tree is upgrading one of the most powerful farmable monsters in Puzzle & Dragons. Light Valkyrie has been relatively top tier in terms of subs, especially for farmable, for a very long time. She hasn't actually got weaker, it's just that the meta has shifted to heart crosses, so a heartbreaker has no value, and then the fact that the teams that she was used most on are not used anymore. Like Kali, Ra, Sakuya, they're not top tier leaders anymore, so Anna Valkyrie Valkyrie was still powerful, but just no team to use her on. It's just unfortunate in my opinion. You do at least get to use her on DQXQ, so that is something to consider, mostly because of how this active skill is changing. So, regular Valkyrie broke Hearts to Light. Now, Anna Valkyrie does Hearts to Light, Light to Enhanced Light. And this Enhanced Light is very powerful because it only added 1 turn cooldown. You do have to reskill her up, but this is very powerful. You combine 2 actives into 1. And if people are using, say, Saria Thor or DQXQ, you have a lot more value because you have the damage enhance, you have the heartbreak. So this is powerful because if you use, say, a Saria active, you get obviously the Saria board, but now you change the hearts to enhanced light, and then you have fire orb, so you can make the row cascades, explosions for damage. You save a sub slot. You don't have to bring, say, Awoken Venus, or you don't have to use your Thor as readily. Very powerful, and you also get another time extender. So this is a huge upgrade in my opinion. It's just unfortunate that there is no perfect home to use Anna Valkyrie on, so that's the only thing you have to wait for. Yeah, I would at least get the materials and evolve the Valkyrie, but you just don't have a perfect leader to use her on, so we just have to wait and be patient. Still can, of course, use Thoria and DQXQ, but just have to wait and see. It's just unfortunate it's a Heartbreaker in a Heart Cross meta. If she changed any other orb, she'd be a dream sub on mirror teams. Last and certainly least is Ace Zeus. Now, Ace Zeus is an evolution from Light Zeus, and Light Zeus was only relevant when Mythical Friday Dungeon was released 2 years ago, and at best it was a niche usage. So Ace Zeus kind of follows that train of no real value. Like, you gain 4 auto heals, whoop-de-doo, but perhaps his best feature is the artwork. Like, you have a crazy looking Zeus head, you have the hand reaching around for him, and you also have the funny little angel wings on Ace himself. So that's cool. I'll evolve mine just for that artwork. However, the active skill got changed, so now you have a 35% gravity and 1.5 times attack for god types on a terrible 27 turn cooldown. That is an eternity in Puzzle & Dragons. Like, that's a crazy long cooldown, and the active is not that great. So you're waiting so long for something that's not that helpful, especially considering this card itself does not have very good awakenings. Like, Zeus Hera will be used almost all the time in his place because you'd rather take the 45% gravity because that can bypass Il-6's resolve. After you trigger it, goes to 50, you can gravity underneath 30, boom, kill Il-6. And Zera has better awakenings, more skill boosts, and a lower cooldown. So aside from the artwork, Ace Zeus, not much value. So one thing I forgot to mention in this video is that all of these Ace cards require the dungeon drops, and you should acquire these and possibly acquire enough to evolve all your monsters, because we don't know when it's going to come back, and you want to at least have the option of evolving them. So you should make sure you farm the dungeon sufficiently to gain enough of those materials. Now, these evolutions are all optional. You can do so if you feel they'll bring more value to your team, or you have the resources to sustain them, such as skill ups, because these monsters gain new active skills. You have to skill them up via Pi. So do them if you feel it has value, but at least have the materials just in case the meta changes and you want to use those new evolutions. So let me know what you plan to do with these Ace Collab cards. Who are you most excited to use from this? And do you have the resources to acquire them? So let me know in the comments below. Have a mantastic day, and happy puzzling!